All right, everybody, welcome back. Episode 3. We've made it this far doing it weekly, so we're going to keep trying. At least this week, I've added some different content today. We got our first interview. Ooh, getting fancy. So, gotta turn down the sound of my phone here so it doesn't feedback here. So, yeah, so we're gonna interview Jim Leary today, the great Jim Leary. Uh, he he needs really no introduction, but we're going to introduce him a little later. He's been working with upper Midwest culture and music for a very long time, many, many decades. He put out a couple years, he's put out many books, including from the past, a great one called Pokerbilly. But recently he put out Folk Songs from Another America is the name of the book. It's a multimedia project. It's really book slash video slash audio CD recordings, and it's a great project. And it's on the University of Wisconsin Press. I think you can still get it. I think it's now in paperback. I got a big old hardcover version of it. But if you're into upper Midwest culture and music, you should definitely go out and purchase that book. We'll have Jim coming up a little later. The idea is I'm going to start featuring other people, sometimes semi-famous people, sometimes just random people talking about upper Midwest traditional music, and specifically tunes that inspire them. So in the coming weeks, I've already recorded a few guests that will come up and join us on that. So yeah, so I hope you're having fun with this series. It's been fun. Like I say again, I'll be in the chat room during this listening party if you wanna join in. So first off, we're gonna start with a man named Dan Radford. Dan Radford was the president of the Minnesota State Fiddle Association for many a year. This recording comes from those great Yankton, South Dakota festival recordings that they put out there in South Dakota. And Dan would make the trip out there and play. And although this is not a traditional tune, we're starting off not traditional. This is one of his own writing. And this one is a very pretty, very lovely tune that's named after his wife. And it's called Orpha's Waltz. All right, let's get started. All right, that was Dan Radford there. He was a great old timer. He I went out to his house maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and had a big long discussion with him about music and the Minnesota State Fiddle Association, and that's where I first heard of all those great Elmo Wick. He had all the Elmo Wick transcriptions were out in the basement of his house, and that conversation I had with him led to the beginning of the Minnesota State Fiddle Association working on getting those out, and they've really done a great job. They've done, I think you can go to MN Fiddle. I think it's .com, might be .org, but Minnesota State Fiddle Association. You can look it up on in the Google, and you'll find that they've done already one book, great book of Elmo Wick tunes, and they're working on a second one, and I think you can still buy the first one. So, the Dan 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 has been a part of that organization for a good long time, and we're glad that he is. Next up on the show, we're going to go to Craig Rubel. Craig Rubel was a local guy. I'm from the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minnesota. Craig was from Minneapolis. He was a great fiddler back in his day. Unfortunately, he died way too young, at the age of 44. Um, and that's really sad. The great Leroy Larson really thought highly of his playing, and he would study both local fiddlers here in Minnesota and Scandinavian fiddlers across the pond too. And he was a really good fiddler. In fact, he recorded 3 different tapes, and they were home recordings basically. And he layered on top of himself all the tracks. So we're going to hear a tune from that right now. This is a good old waltz. He learned this waltz from some Minnesota player. I'm mistaking the name right now, but that's why I'm playing it today. Is because he learned it from another old Minnesota old timer there. So here's Craig Rubel. right, that was Trade Rubel, really hitting the spot there. Such a pretty fiddler with great intonation. Next up, we got Elmo Wick, who we were talking about earlier. I forgot that Elmo was in this show, but Elmo is a very important figure in the sense that he did all those transcriptions that I was talking about, and he basically, that's what he did in the latter part of his life, was he made sure that all these fiddlers' tunes who weren't recorded anywhere got at least recorded down on paper, and so that you can at least get close to the feel of how they played them. And it was a real service to us. And I use those transcriptions almost every day in different forms. And the tunes I've learned from Elmo's transcriptions are some of my favorite tunes for sure. So I really love that. Hey, David Miller, what's up? So, anyways, we're gonna hear a Elmo Witt tune here. Um, I love his playing too, and this is kind of a rare tape. This is not any, like a lot of my tapes, they haven't made the light of day, and you don't get to hear Elmo that much playing Scandinavian tunes without accompaniment. But here's a great one here. Too bad we only got one round through that song, but boy, it's a great tune. Next up, we're going to go up to Kirkwood. Now we're going up. Elmo was from Bruton, which is basically in the dead center of Minnesota. And next, we're going to go up to Kirkhoven, which is outside of Duluth up there. And I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And we're going to go visit Kay Brokaw. Kay Brokaw was kind of a very special fiddler in the mid 1900s in that area. He was differently abled in some ways, but he people really loved him. He had a great spirit about him. That's what everyone says. And he, rumor has it, would just go down to the local gas station and just play for everybody. He wasn't even busking, just playing for people at the gas station. So we're gonna go visit Kay Brokaw for a minute up there. Yeah, I should have said Brokaw was actually from Deerwood, Minnesota, which is up by Duluth there. Sorry for the misinformation there. So next on the list, we're gonna go to Jim Smith. Jim Smith was a great accordion player. They say one of the best. Multiple sources say he was one of the best accordion players up in northwestern Minnesota. But I know very little about him. So anyone with a lot of information on Jim Smith, accordion player from northwestern Minnesota. I want to know more. How I know him through is from all the tapes that Hillary Stoltman gave to me. Hillary used to play with Jim a lot, and really I just need to talk to Hillary about it, but I haven't had the chance yet. But he used to play with Hillary all the time, and amongst all these tapes that Hillary gave me was just a tape of Jim playing, and it's one of my favorite like just accordion tapes. It's really great, and clearly just a home recording, Jim. So I'm gonna play you a tune off there. Yeah, Jim Smith. He knows how to throw it down that thing. Next up is the middle of our program. We're gonna do what I've been wanting to do for a while, which is start interviewing people. Like I was talking about at the beginning of the show, we're gonna sit down. We're gonna talk to Jim Leary. The specific reason that we're talking to Jim Leary is because we want to start having other people give us their favorite songs of Upper Midwest traditional music. And of course, we have to start with Jim Leary. Jim Leary is an Upper Midwest music legend, at least historian wise and ethnomusicologist wise. This man knows what he's talking about. If you need to know anything about Upper Midwest traditional music, it's Jim. So let's listen to Jim a little bit, and then we're going to hear the song that he wants to talk about right after that. So here you go. All right, Clawhammer Mike back here with Jim Leary. Jim really needs no introduction. Everybody goes to him when they want to talk about Upper Midwest folk music, and luckily he's so generous with his time. But Jim, why don't you talk about why this music inspires you and what got you started in all this?
Well, I grew up in Rice Lake in Northwest Wisconsin, and I was really lucky. There was live local music on the radio when I was a kid in the '50s, so I could hear Bohemian polka bands. I could hear Swiss yodeling, and I could hear, Norwegian old time kind of accordion bands. And then right in town was Otto Rindlisbacher's Buckhorn Tavern, where he had the world's largest collection of lumberjack musical instruments displayed on the wall. And it was just kind of exciting. And of course, at that time too, you didn't have any of these syndicated, niche market kind of radio stations, so I could actually hear, Hank Williams and Fats Domino and Elvis Presley and all this stuff on the radio, and just kind of rootsy music and from afar, but also the stuff right around me was very exciting. And then I was lucky to discover folklore as a subject you could pursue in graduate school, and I realized that there was a lot of work to be done in Wisconsin and the upper Midwest generally. So I got started back in the 70s.
Yeah. And then the story went from there. So why don't you talk about? I'm specifically interested in some of those visits with some of the old timers that you did. I've been going through the archives, and you have quite expansive notes about going to visit some of these old timers. It's one of my favorite things to do, and I was wondering if you could tell some stories about that at all.
Well, it's just a great thing to do, and I know you asked me to pick out a couple of tunes, and one is by an old timer. He's long gone now, Ray or Reno Mackey, and he operated a little place called the Onion River Tavern between Washburn and Bayfield, Wisconsin, and there was an area there called the Finn the Finn settlement, where a bunch of Finns, a lot of them had been working in mines on the Iron Range of Minnesota, and they were blacklisted or conditions were really crappy in the early 20th century, and they came by boat from Duluth and around Lake Superior and came in and settled there. They had a little hall. Ray's dad played music, and he and his brother Hugo were both musicians. And I'd known about him for a long time, but he was kind of elusive. He'd been a trapper and a commercial fisherman and done a little farming and ran a tavern. And he had a whole lot of button accordions. And I was working on a grant based in Northland College in Ashland. There was a younger guy, Matt Gallman, who played a lot of instruments, including he was learning button accordion, and he'd gotten a used one from Ray. And we finally tracked pinned Ray down. I had some good recording equipment. I had a reel-to-reel stereo Nagra recorder that was state of the art, borrowed from the Library of Congress then, and some really good German Sennheiser microphones. And so we went to Ray's place and finally got him to tell a little bit about his life and a little bit about his music. He told some funny stories and kind of harrowing too. One was about his dad, how his dad came over, and Ray said about the only thing his dad had was a button accordion and a gunny sack. And Ray's dad's brother had gotten over first and had gotten some homestead land north of Duluth. And Ray's dad arrived just as winter was setting in. And with the homestead land, you had to have someone who stayed on the land in order to make your claim good. And Ray's uncle had gotten a contract for what would you call them? Support beams for underground mines on the Minnesota Iron Range. So there was Ray's dad just come over from Finland. There's a little shack. He's got a broad axe, and he's supposed to start tie hacking, start shaping these support beams all by himself. And one day the damn broad axe slipped, and he cut the hell out of his foot.
Oh.
And he was all by himself, and he had to use I think he used some combination of wood ashes and pine pitch to like seal it up, and he toughed it out through the winter. And then at the end of the story, Ray said, and he's walking yet today on that foot. Well, of course, he's been dead for 5 years. But Ray hung around and hung around his dad, and when his dad was gone, sometimes he would get out that button accordion and play it. And then there was this old Finn Hall, and Ray would listen to these old timers play tunes. And the first tune he played for us was this Murarin Valsi, Mason's Waltz, after a stonemason. And it's just such a beautiful tune. Ray wasn't a slick player. There were some, some mistakes, so to speak, in there, but the button accordion has that wonderful breathy sound with the bellows, and when he played it, we had the mic's position so you could hear uh, the buttons clicking too, and you got this little bit of percussion that went along with the tune, and it's one of those minor key Finnish waltzes, and Ray just played it with so much feeling. It was just kind of a mystical song, and coming from a guy who was kind of a ruffian, rough around the edges, but he had this deep soulfulness, and it was just thrilling to be in the presence of someone like that and let him uh, well, he gave you a glimpse into his soul.
Yeah, that sounds almost magical.
Yeah,
And
it was really memorable.
yeah, so that was Jim Leary there. I interviewed him. In fact, I think it was earlier today that I did that. But the I want to. I've been thinking about that interview all day, and I want to touch on a couple of things. One is, the kind of situations that he and other folks put themselves in the mid 1900s, like late 1900s, even up to the 70s and 80s. You can't have those type of experiences, the kind of experiences that he was talking about being fully immersed in these musical cultures. Those experiences are very hard for us to have anymore. All that we have left are remnants of the music, and that could depress you, or it could be, you could see it as a positive thing. You could see it as our duty to kind of make sure that these what's left of these traditions don't die. So I thought about that, and I also thought about right at the end there. He was talking about the buttons on the button bots. If anybody knows, the button bots is a real loud beast. It plays the music, but it also has all of this noise, especially the old Hohner poker words that we like so much. And I remember talking to Dick Reese, a great button bots player he used to be from St. Paul, but now he's up in Duluth. And Dick told me that the clicking that happens when you hit the buttons, it's off rhythm, because it just is. And he says that was his favorite part of the instrument. Before, I was thinking that was the part that needs to be refined, and has been refined in newer machines. But to Dick, who is probably the best button bots player I've ever heard, to him that was like the real magic in it. So you know, like all music, like all traditional music, this music can be very mystical and very magical in my mind, and those are the moments I love. That kind of experience that Jim's talking about, where you're fully immersed in it, and you're just appreciating everything that comes with some great master playing in front of you, like he was talking about. So, anyways, that's my take. We're gonna now hear that song that Jim was talking about. We're gonna hear Ray Mackey play this tune here. right, so that was Ray Mackey of Bayfield, Wisconsin, up there on that no, up there in the north of here, north of the Twin Cities. So next we're gonna go, to my favorite Upper Midwest fiddler. He might be on every single show I have, just because I love Leonard Finseth. So we're gonna go to Leonard here, and this one was a rare cut that somebody sent to me recently. I don't think there's much Leonard music that I don't have. I think I have about all the home recordings there is to be out there. But then someone sent me this tape a few weeks ago of a session they recorded, and I want to play this one for you here. All right, that was Leonard Finseth. I interviewed Phil Nussbaum today, Mr. Bluegrass Saturday Morning. He talked a lot about how his first kind of real introduction to this music was going to Nordic Fest in Decorah, Iowa. I think he said the 70s, but it might have been the early 80s. And he saw Bill Sherburne there. And I don't got any video of Bill Sherburne playing at Nordic Fest, but I do have video of Leonard playing at Nordic Fest. So I'll be playing that probably next week or the week after, whenever we get that Phil interview on the air here. Next up, we're going to central Minnesota, back to the town of Bruton, Minnesota, which was a real hotbed of traditional fiddling and accordion playing both. We're gonna go to, actually, this is kind of a weird recording that I like. It's actually it's a recording of Cliff Gandrud, who was, like, everybody says one of the best players of his day back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, back in his day. But this is a tape of Harris Amundsen, who played with him a bunch and who was another great fiddler from the area. This is a tape that I think he was dubbing a record. He was either dubbing a record or dubbing a reel-to-reel. And the really shocking part, which I find to be the great part, is that in the middle, he just can't help himself. He goes, "Oh, isn't this great music? This is Cliff Gandrud with his brother and his dad." You'll hear that coming up. It's pretty good stuff.
Pretty good music, eh, now? Because there's Clifford Gandrud and his dad, Roy Erlandson, and Raymond Clifford's brother on the guitar.
That's a great old schottish there by Cliff Gandrud and family, his dad, his brother, all those folks, and you probably heard Harris Amundsen in the middle there, exclaiming how much he liked that music. We're gonna stay in the area right there in central Minnesota. We're gonna go back to Bruton for one of my favorite upper Midwest accordion players. I know I played her on show one, but I gotta play her again. I'll play her a bunch. My group, the Upper Midwest Folk Fiddlers, we really like this tune. This tune's a fun tune to crank out on the fiddle. This is Viola Lee playing the Piano Tuner's Polka. Yeah, so that was Viola Lee, and the highest praise that she got was that she said that many folks said about her was that she played accordion just like a fiddler, and I guess that's high praise up in those parts. So she had all the different intricacies of a fiddler down in her playing, and she learned from her father, who was a very good fiddler up in that area too. So and she played all his tunes. So it only made sense that that would be the case. Well, next we're gonna go over into the Blair area of Wisconsin, down in the east. Would it be west central Wisconsin? And specifically, we're gonna go to a town called Galesville. There's a guy down there named Russell Glomstead, and Russell's a cool character. He's been around old time music since way back in the day, and he played me some great recordings from a barn in like 1955 in Wisconsin, and different various. He recorded. I love these guys who are like musicians, but they also like to record everything. So he's got recordings from cheese festivals and all these different bands, all these different ensembles, all these different groups. I only spent one day with Russell so far, but I'd love to spend more with him while he's still around and hanging out down there in Galesville. So now we're gonna hear a tune that he did with some other great fiddlers. I think they're at a nursing home when they played this one. But let's hear some music from West Central Wisconsin.
Okay, another one coming up. Here's a Lumberman's Polka.
Those are the best kind of recordings when you hear the hooping and hollering going on behind. That's how you know people are having fun, and that's the way this music's meant to be played. Not this COVID style podcast that we're doing here, but actually out in front of the peeps and sharing in the love of the music. And if people are dancing, that's all the better. So. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed the program today, episode number 3. If you want to, I guess I point over there. Up there is my Venmo and my PayPal. My PayPal is unarmedjournal@hotmail.com. My Venmo is at Clawhammer Mike. It takes a little bit of time and effort to run these shows, so if you want to contribute anything, you can. Otherwise, you sure don't have to. Thank you all for listening. It's been great fun doing these shows. I'm glad that there's been such great interest from both at home and across the pond. I'll see y'all down the road sometime. Someday soon, we'll have shows again and we'll have dances again, and life will be back to normal. So hang in there, everybody. I hope this at least provided a little bit of entertainment on your Thursday evening. See y'all later.